the federal government has quietly ended a visa program allowing wealthy overseas investors to live in Australia. The Significant Investor Visa was designed specifically to attract Chinese citizens who made up 90% of the successful applicants. So-called Golden Visa granted foreign citizens permanent residence status for a minimum investment of $5 million in Australia. Labor is set to replace the scheme with more skilled worker visas. But the criticism was that a lot of folks were able to game that system. Let's bring in the Shadow Immigration Minister Dan Tehan now. Dan, what do you think about this visa being quietly scrapped? Good to see you, by the way.
Good to see you, Pete. What we need to see from the government is far more transparency when it comes to immigration. Are they scrapping this visa? What are the reasons? Are they integrity reasons? If they're integrity reasons, absolutely, they have to be front and central of everything you do in immigration. We've seen today also reports that their aged care visa scheme, which was meant to bring in critical aged care nurses into aged care facilities, that isn't working. Now, I think there was less than 5 people in the first 6 months. We don't know what is happening with those 148 hardened criminals. How many of those have been rearrested? They've dropped transparency around that. Just seems that everything they're doing in immigration at the moment is a mess, and they don't want to fess up about it. So we'd like to hear from the Minister for Immigration, Andrew Giles, or Claire O'Neill today. Have they scrapped it? What are the reasons? And were there serious integrity issues?
OK. Do you believe it was flawed policy, though? Because if criminals, foreign criminals, were basically having the red carpet rolled out to come and get themselves an easy Australian visa, does it make sense to just can it? Was it a bad one? Was it a bad policy?
Well, the policy intent was to bring people into this country who would bring capital with them. That was the intent, so that they would grow businesses, grow jobs, invest in our country. Now, if there are integrity issues, well, that was the policy intent. Now, with everything in the immigration space, you have to be on top of integrity, because people will use ways to try and exploit your scheme, as we're seeing at the moment with those people who are coming here by air and then or by plane and then claiming asylum. When you're in government, you've got to adapt. You've got to be on the ball, and you've got to make sure that you can make the changes necessary to keep integrity in your visa system. Now, if that's what the government is doing and it's all about integrity, come out and say so. But this idea that you just quietly scrap something and then give no explanation whatsoever at a time when you're bringing in over 500,000 people a year. Now, is it part of trying to reduce the 500,000 a year that they've been letting in, or are they replacing it with something which will see that number continue? These are all the questions we've got when it comes to immigration, and we seem to get no answers from Andrew Giles.
OK, final one here, Dan. Labor MPs recalled this week. Cost of living measures is what is going to be discussed. What do you hope they come up with?
Well, I think the Australian people will be quietly angered by the fact that all these MPs are going back to Canberra to have drinks at the lodge. What we need to see from the Prime Minister is people seeing reductions in their power bills, people seeing reductions in their insurance bills, people seeing reductions in their basic costs of living, and they need to see action from the Prime Minister, not inviting all his MPs for a talk fest and then drinks in Canberra. I can't see how that is going to solve one cost of living issue. OK, but have you got an idea on what you hope they do come up with that's going to help the folks at home? Well, to start with, as the IMF have said, we have to stop seeing the government spending increasing at the levels that it is. The 10,000 extra public servants that went into Canberra in last year's budget, that would be a very good place to start. They have to fix the energy mess that they're creating. What Chris Bowen is doing to the energy market is just driving prices up and up and up, and they've got no idea. So there's 2 basic ways that they could start: addressing inflation, making sure everything they're doing is about getting inflation down. There's 3 good ways that they could start making a difference to people's lives rather than having a talk fest.
OK, the year's off and running. Dan Tehan, good to see you. We'll talk to you soon.